The mysterious return of California's ghost Lake Tulare. Once there was a big lake called Lake Tulare. It was the biggest freshwater lake to the west of the Mississippi River. Every winter, when it rained or the snow melted from the nearby Sierra Nevada mountains, the lake would get bigger as the water flowed into it. But around the year 1920, the rivers that brought water to the lake were changed. They were blocked or redirected for things like watering crops. As a result, during the middle of the 20th century, the lake basically disappeared and was replaced by farmlands where people grew different kinds of crops. But now something amazing has happened. Lake Tulare has come back, and it's coming back really fast. The water is filling up the lake again and covering towns, farms, and even roads. This unexpected return of the lake is being called the Phantom Lake, and it's causing both wonder and concern. Welcome to our channel, Dawn Luxury. In today's video, we're gonna talk about the reappearance of Lake Tulare and how it's affecting the region, the people who live there, and their ways of making a living. But before we start, do subscribe to our channel and leave your comments below. Your support is really important for our channel to grow. Lake Tulare used to be a permanent part of the San Joaquin Valley. It was huge, covering about 790 square miles, which is roughly 4 times the size of Lake Tahoe. It created a wetland area with lots of plants and animals, making up about 10% of California. The lake was home to many different kinds of birds and ducks, and it was an important part of a route that birds took when they flew between North and South America. The lake was also important to the indigenous people who lived nearby. They had a deep connection to the lake and relied on it for the way of their life. In the late 1800s, people started taking water from the smaller rivers that flow into Tulare tributaries for farming. This made the lake gradually dry up, and the land underneath, which was very fertile, became farmland. This farmland is now called the Tulare Basin, and it's a great place for growing crops. There are 4 counties in this area: Fresno, Kern, Kings, and Tulare. These counties are some of the top producers of agricultural products in the state. The Tulare Basin is really important for farming in the state. It's worth about $2 billion in dairy products and crops like wheat, grapes, tomatoes, cotton, corn, alfalfa, almonds, and pistachios. The lake in this area, called Lake Tulare, is what we call a phantom lake. That means it's a lake that usually shows up temporarily during heavy rains. These lakes are usually not very deep compared to permanent lakes. Before the water was taken away, Lake Tulare used to be about 37 feet deep. But because shallow lakes have more surface area compared to their volume, they tend to dry up faster when the water gets heated by the sun and evaporates. The weather in California's Central Valley is hot and dry, which makes these phantom lakes disappear quickly. Owens Lake, which is 220 miles north of Los Angeles, is another lake that was depleted in the past, but it's now starting to fill up again. This happened because Los Angeles built a water channel in 1913 that took away the lake's freshwater supply by diverting its tributary. After 110 years, the lake is now filling up rapidly once again. The Sierra Nevada mountain range acts like a big water funnel, directing melted water from the mountains into the Tulare Basin through different rivers. But now the water flow is being blocked or redirected by levees and dams. Unfortunately, these systems have their limits and can't always prevent flooding when there's heavy rainfall or snowfall. In the first 3 months of 2023, there was a lot of rain and snow, causing the lake in Tulare to fill up with water again. Corcoran is the biggest city near the lake, with about 22,000 people. A picture taken from space by NASA shows that farmland near Corcoran was underwater. The dark blue water in the pictures represents the water, and you can see that the flooded area got bigger between March 1st and April 1st. In March 2023, California experienced 2 big storms called atmospheric rivers, which brought a lot of rain. This caused the San Joaquin River to flood and even made a hole in the Los Angeles aqueduct. Sometimes the Tulare Basin gets flooded, especially in years with lots of rain and snow in the Sierra Nevada mountains. Throughout history, the lake has filled up and dried out many times, but this time it's more of a problem because there are towns and farms in the basin. The lake flooded in 1969, 1983, and 1997, which were the wettest years with lots of snow before this one. Many houses in the city got flooded, and some roads had to be closed. Smaller towns like Allensworth and Alpo to the south were surrounded by water from the overflowing rivers, and people were told to leave their homes for safety by the end of March. The recent storms in the region have caused a lot of problems for farmers in the Tulare Basin. These storms are called atmospheric rivers, and they bring a lot of moisture from the tropics, where it's warm and can hold more water. Because of climate change, the atmosphere can now hold even more water than before. The storms have been really bad, and farmers have had to move their cattle to safer places. There has already been a lot of flooding, but there's still more water on the way. The snow in the Sierra Nevada mountains is melting and will flow down in the valley as it gets warmer in the spring. When the snow melts, the water naturally flows down from the mountains to the lowest parts of the valley, and the Tulare Lake Basin is in a vulnerable spot. To put it simply, the rain and snow causes flooding, but the rising temperatures makes things even worse. This year, there's 3 times more snow in the mountains than usual, and it keeps adding up. On April 3rd, the California Department of Water Resources found that statewide snowpack was 237% higher than the average for that date, which is one of the biggest measurements ever recorded. Eventually, all this water has to go through the San Joaquin watershed, and a lot of it will pass through the Tulare Lake Basin. While the water is a relief for many parts of California, ending the long drought and filling up reservoirs, it's a big problem for places like the Tulare Basin. People living in the Tulare Basin are seeing a lot of water that could cause serious problems for them. This is just the beginning, and if things keep going like this, it could be the worst flood ever in Tulare Lake's history. Tulare Lake is a shallow and isolated body of water that doesn't have any streams or outlets. That means that any water that goes into the basin stays there until it dries up. The clay underneath the lake doesn't let much water soak into the ground. So the water from this flood might take a long time to dry up, maybe even months or years. This creates new problems because the water is collecting in farmland that has been treated with chemicals like fertilizers and pesticides. These chemicals might mix with the water and make it dirty. When there's flooding from animal farms, there's also a risk of the water getting contaminated with germs and harmful metals. Tulare County has already warned people about the health risk from the dirty floodwater. To reduce the risk of flooding in the Lake Tulare area, there are a few potential solutions. These include bringing back natural floodplains, making spaces for water to flow, and building levees and recharge basins. But it's not easy to make these changes to the land. The San Joaquin Valley has a complicated history of arguments about water, and there isn't one group that can handle the problem by itself. In short, the situation in the Tulare Basin is really serious. People are dealing with a lot of water that's putting their lives in danger. If things keep going like this, it could be the worst flood ever in the Tulare Lake area. The water will take a long time to go away because the lake is isolated and has clay under it. This floodwater also brings new problems like pollution from farming chemicals and animal waste. There are some ideas to make flooding less risky, like restoring natural floodplains and creating more places for the water to go. But it's hard to make these changes because of the arguments in the past about water and because no one group can handle everything. The real challenge is to plan for future floods in the long term. Right now, the fate of the communities near Lake Tulare depends on the water, how much rain and snowfall there is, and how much snow accumulates. This will be a major concern for the next few months. What do you think about this crisis with Lake Tulare? Leave a comment below and let us know about your thoughts. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon for more videos. See you in the next video.